Senator Allen, thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have this exciting transportation hearing.
You have 5 bills, 1 due pass, SB 439, 3 suspense. They're on suspense. They're not candidates for suspense, and 1 consent. How would you like to begin?
So my understanding was I would be presenting SB 439 and SB 637, and that the other ones were waiving presentation.
Great. Thank you. Please proceed.
Okay, so we'll start with SB 439, which is an elections bill. Now, Election Day voter registration will commence in California in 2017 following the implementation of our new statewide voter database, which has been a very long time coming. We've got a motion for the bill. Do you want me to keep going?
We have a motion by Quirk, a second by Bloom. You can continue if you like.
Okay. I mean, effectively, this addresses a current oversight that will then allow election officials to offer voter registration and voting at satellite offices during the 2-week period before Election Day. I'm happy to take extra questions about it, but it's only going to result in minor administrative costs. It's very much supported by the California Association of Clerks and Elections Officials and Common Cause and the Secretary of State.
Great. Witnesses in support?
Mr. Chair, members, Steve Kelmer on behalf of the Board of Supervisors of Los Angeles County. We thank the author and the Secretary of State for putting this bill up. We think that it will result in ultimate efficiencies and increases in accuracy in the voting process, and we are in support.
Thank you so much. Other witnesses in support, individuals from the public in support, witnesses in opposition, individual from the public in opposition, Department of Finance.
We have a neutral position on this bill because it conforms statute to systems already being used in election offices in other locations. Fiscal impact is approximately 93,000 general fund for 1 staff of the Secretary of State.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the committee members? Seeing none, we have a motion by Quirk, a second by Bloom. This bill is out on a B roll call with Chang not voting.
Okay, great. A B-roll. That's like a Hollywood term. Okay. The next bill, Mr. Chair, is SB 637, which has to do with suction dredge mining. And I just want to give the committee, I want to thank the committee for giving me time to present this bill. I'm going to be brief. It seeks to address a recent court ruling which found that California's regulatory program for suction dredge mining violated the Federal Supremacy Clause and the 1872 Mining Act because the Department of Fish and Wildlife does not have the authority to fully mitigate all the environmental impacts as directed by the legislature, and thus could not issue permits and lift the moratorium that's been in place on this activity since 2009. This bill empowers the State Water Resources Control Board to use its regulatory powers under the Federal Clean Water Act to address the water quality issues associated with suction dredge mining. It addresses both the gap in regulator authority and clearly ensures that California's regulatory program is in line with federal protections, clean water protections. So both programs, DFWs and the water boards, are paid for through regulatory fees without an impact on the general fund. It requires that the fees to cover, SB 637, as you know, requires the fees to cover the cost of the programs. And so when the department issued its first environmental impact report on suction dredge mining regulations in 2012, it recognized that it did not have the authority to regulate impacts on public health, water quality, or cultural sites, and thus could not issue permits that guaranteed these protections, despite the legislature's requirement that it do so. And the department made the point at the time that other agencies, such as the Water Board, have jurisdiction over these impacts. So in January of this year, the San Bernardino Superior Court ruled that the federal mining law preempted the department's regulations of suction dredge mining on federal land since the department could not legally issue permits. And the court commented that the state's laws related to suction dredge mining needed clarification. So this bill, all it does is requires the State Water Resources Control Board to regulate the discharge of pollutants into waterways resulting from suction dredge mining, just as it regulates every other discharger under the Clean Water Act. It addresses this court ruling in San Bernardino directly, closes the gap in California's statutory framework regarding suction dredge mining by both giving the appropriate agency authority to deal with the water quality impacts and by ensuring suction dredge mining activity conforms to both state and federal protections. So this is even more important now as our state is in the grips of a historic drought. We need to protect water quality. I have with me here Izzy Martin from the Sierra Fund, Josh Saxon, who's a council member from the Karuk tribe, who will both speak in support of this bill.
Great. Please keep the comments brief. This is a fiscal committee, and this bill has already been vetted to the policy committee. Please keep it brief.
Thank you, Chairman Gomez, members of the committee. My name is Izzy Martin. I am the CEO of the Sierra Fund. We're the sponsors of this bill. We do think that's an important water quality regulation that needs to be put in place. And, of course, since there will be permit fees for the people that take out these permits, we believe that there will be a very small impact on the general fund. It will, we believe, save the taxpayers' money over the long run because it will mitigate the significant impacts of suction dredge mining on water quality.
Thank you so much.
Ayuki, my name is Josh Saxon, a council member of Karuk Tribe. On behalf of the Karuk Tribe, we ask for your aye vote. This impact fiscally is offset by the increased chances of fish survival. We rely on fish for our diet, for our culture, for our religion, and this impacts of mining is very real to our culture and to our people, so we ask for your aye vote.
Thank you so much. Individuals from the public in support, name, organization, and position, please.
Charles Watson on behalf of California Trout in support. Thank you.
Kathy Cole with the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California in support.
Jennifer Franklin, East Bay Municipal Utility District in support.
Andrew Grinberg, Clean Water Action in support.
Craig Tucker on behalf of Klamath Riverkeeper in support.
Elizabeth Burns, Sierra Club, California in support.
Witnesses in opposition.
Hello, my name is Chris Georgie, Miners Assembled, representing the independent small-scale miners around California. There was several thousand suction dredge permits issued before the moratorium was in place. However, this bill affects far more than that number, as it has, in fact, redefined a suction dredge to mean much more than a suction dredge. It is defining anything which has a hose to pick up sediment, which has a water pump, or a motorized sluice box, or any other mechanized mining equipment as a suction dredge. The EIR, which was prepared previously, only addressed the suction dredge, which in fact is used for underwater excavation and mineral removal. Because of this, it will require a new EIR at significant expense to the state. It will require that there be significant additional training for every staff person who would act as an inspector. In fact, because of the rugged and remote areas, they would require the training equivalent to a wildland firefighter in terms of their situational awareness, ability to hike in rough terrain, safety training. They will also require extensive MSHA training, OSHA training, hazmat training, according to the intended purpose of Mercury. It will furthermore require a significant expenditure in terms of litigation, because this bill, while it states that it is addressing a waste discharge, there is no waste being discharged by a suction dredge. It is removing material from the riverbed, flowing through, and it returns it to the riverbed. It is impossible to add waste in this means. So this is what is considered incidental fallback according to the Supreme Court. Furthermore, the on-site inspection would appear to be a significant problem in terms of confidentiality, because the location, quantity, makeup, processing, and recovery costs of the minerals
30 seconds.
Are themselves confidential information which are protected by trade secrets. The amount that an individual can procure through his through handwork without a suction dredge is 3- to 4-fold lower, meaning that any individual who is making a significant portion of their income from small-scale mining will go from near the poverty level, where they're eligible for significant state subsidies, to the point of with the suction dredge being able to be comfortable and and contributing financially to our economy. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Ricchetti, Western Mining Alliance. This bill goes forward. It will impose a huge permit fee on the miners that aren't adding a pollutant or discharge to the environment, and it'll cost thousands of dollars. We're small miners, small businessmen. They won't be able to afford it, so therefore the money will not be there to support the bill overall in the long term, and then all the costs of the litigation will go into the millions. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Individuals from the public in opposition, just your name, organization, and position, please.
I'm Robert Cutting. I'm a retired community college instructor in water and related subjects, and I oppose the bill.
My name's Steve Durham. I'm from Napa, California, and I oppose this bill.
Thank you.
Joe Woldhouse, East Bay Prospectors, strongly oppose.
Dale Meyer, East Bay Prospectors, strongly oppose this unnecessary permit.
Melissa Fernandez, gold miner, Madera County. Also, I'm a conservationist and a former educator in environmental issues with grammar school children. Thank you. Strongly opposed.
Thank you.
Gary Shaver, representing Pioneer Mining Supplies. We strongly oppose this bill. It does not take away our rights. It destroys our rights. And we need to accept.
Just your name, position. Thank you so much.
In Granite Bay, I strongly oppose this bill. Mercury's not going to go away by itself. We clean the river.
Thank you so much. Just your name and opposition. Thank you. Department of Finance.
We do not have a position on this bill. Note a fiscal cost to the Water Board of $420,000 special fund over a 2-year period to develop the water quality permit.
Thank you so much. Questions or comments from the committee members? Seeing none, would you like to close? And this is a fiscal committee, please.
Right. Yeah. I would just say that I've sat down with some of the opponents. We're never going to, I think, come to agreement on some of the fundamental issues involving the bill, but I certainly have committed to them to, if this does pass, to both with Senator Nielsen and myself, to work with the Water Board to make sure that that they go about the process of permitting in a way that's fair to the people applying, and that if in cases where it would be reasonable for people to apply together for a permit, that sort of thing would be allowed to basically help to mitigate some of the kinds of concerns that have been raised. But ultimately, this is not a ban on this activity. There'll be certainly a number of rivers that will be available for this sort of activity. All it does is seek to give the Water Board regulatory authority over this. And ultimately, people will come to the board and make their case one way or another as to the environmental impacts. And in this time of drought, we feel this is really necessary to make sure that we're doing what we need to do to protect our rivers.
Yeah, thank you so much, Senator. This bill will be taken up in due consideration, and just because members vote a certain way on this committee doesn't mean that they can't change their mind on the floor. So keep that in mind for both sides. Thank you so much.
So what happens?
Senator Pavley. What's that? Hi, Senator.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. I have 5 bills. One's on consent. That was Senate Bill 798. Waiving presentation per the chair's recommendation on 1, 3, and 4. So I would like to present on file item 2, SB 248, also acknowledging a paper being passed out on commitment to you, Mr. Chair, and Mr. Williams to continue to work on SB 32. But let's go on to SB 248.
Please continue.
If that's appropriate. Okay, very good. This bill builds off the work I had done on SB 4. That was a bill working with the oil companies relating to making sure that fracking is a policy that can, in effect, protect our groundwater supply. This bill is a oil and gas reform bill. The rationale or the reason for it is I chair the Water Committee and Protection of Groundwater, which is 60% of our water supply, especially in years of drought, is critically important. The reform measures in this particular bill are based on a commissioned study, an independent study by the California Council on Science and Technology. It was peer-reviewed. It came out in July of this year, and many of the provisions of this measure are incorporated in this reform package. Your committee analysis was done very well. It outlines the content of this bill, but Mr. Chairman, you wanted me to talk about the fiscal implications, did you not? Rather than, if there's questions about the bill, fine, but fiscally, as you know, this would be covered by the per barrel fee that is assessed for anything that has to do with implementing SB 4. This is part of the reform package to protect our groundwater supply. It's about a half-cent per barrel cost is projected to protect our groundwater supply. This is a small investment because cleaning up groundwater is amazingly expensive and complicated, and we can't afford to do that. So I ask for your aye vote.
Great. Witnesses in support?
Thank you. Andrew Grinberg from Clean Water Action, and today comments also on behalf of Environmental Working Group and California League of Conservation Voters. We strongly support this bill. As the Senator mentioned, the cost to the taxpayers is zero, as it's paid for by the per barrel fee, and the economic benefits and savings to the state by protecting our groundwater are potentially huge. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Brianna Mordick with the Natural Resources Defense Council. I concur with all the points made by the previous speaker. This bill implements critical reforms, and the costs are completely justified when weighed against the cost of remediating contaminated groundwater, and therefore we ask for your aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other individuals from the public in support? Witnesses in opposition, please.
Mr. Chairman and members, Eloy Garcia for the Western States Petroleum Association. Our opposition is primarily based on policy, including some of the new policy and substantive policy issues that were added just this week, which regrettably we haven't had an opportunity to look at it extensively, but we will. On the fiscal grounds, however, as the proponents mentioned and the author mentioned, most, if not all, of the work of the Department of Division of Oil and Gas and the Water Resource Control Board as it relates to oil and gas exploration permitting is covered by the fee, by the per barrel fee. That fee has been expanded 5 to 6-fold over the last couple of years because of multiple reforms. We have excessive and extensive reforms that are underway now, starting with SB 4, with the Underground Injection Control Program, with SB 1281. We have extensive reforms that are in place, so to suggest that we need additional reforms when we have yet to implement the prior reforms, I think it would be a mistake. We need to let those current reforms, including the U.S. EPA State Water Resource Control Board Corrective Action Plan, we need to let that be implemented. This year's budget provided extensive funding for that process, for those reforms, for those regulations that are underway now. Unfortunately, some of the reforms in this bill are now redundant and sometimes in conflict with the reforms from last year. So with all due respect, we continue to oppose the bill, both, as I mentioned, on policy basis, but even on fiscal basis as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members, Theo Pejos, representing the California Independent Petroleum Association. We are likewise situated. I'd just like to add that we were here at the same place at the same time last year with the bill SB 1281 that related to groundwater monitoring and reporting. We stretched ourselves mightily to go neutral on that bill. That bill resulted in some good regulations, but also resulted in $8 million budget augmentation for a data system for Dogger to be able to make that happen. here we are again with new specific information that would be required. We don't know what the fiscal implications are because the bill was essentially just amended, I think maybe even less than a week ago. So a lot of new stuff. We haven't gotten our arms around it. A lot of new stuff. We don't know how the legislature can get its arm around it, nor Dogger. And for those reasons, we oppose the bill and ask that you hold it in committee. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Individuals from the public in opposition?
Mike Rogi with California Manufacturers and Technology Association in opposition.
Thank you so much. Department of Finance.
We are opposed to this bill because the Department of Conservation already has an approved work plan, and funding has been provided in the 2015 Budget Act to bring the underground injection control program into compliance with the Safe Drinking Water Act. By the way, these comments are based on the July 16th version of the bill. Fiscal impact is $842,000 to the Oil and Gas Geothermal Administrative Fund.
Thank you so much. Questions or comments from the committee members? Seeing none, Senator Pavley, would you like to close?
Certainly. This bill simply puts into statute what the EPA and the administration agreed to do in a timeline. It just puts that same negotiated agreement into statute. The additional costs, the oil companies heavily lobbied during the budget appropriation to add extra PYs, and they knew they were paying for this. It's all about closing up data gaps in the way we protect our groundwater. This study came out, it was part of SB4, it came out in early July. The bill was amended to reflect what came out of a study that was all agreed to and paid for by a per barrel fee as required under SB4. They had brought up some really need to focus on closing data gaps so that we could make some minor reforms to protect groundwater. It's based on reports by respected scientists that were peer-reviewed. I think it's more cost-effective to invest in these reforms to protect our groundwater than risk it being contaminated in the future. Ask for your aye vote.
Thank you so much. This bill is on suspense and when will be given due consideration. SB 32? Are you presenting on that
I
one?
am not presenting on that. I passed out a letter acknowledging that I will be working with you, Mr. Chairman, and Chairman Williams from the Natural Resources Committee on amendments that particularly look at providing more oversight for CARB and other agencies involved with the implementation of climate legislation such as SB 32.
Great. Thank you for that statement. Dr. Pan, you're up.
Thank you.
Senator, up. 5 bills.
Yes.
2 do pass, 3 suspense.
Yes.
Yes.
So I'll be waiving presentations on SB 435 and SB 573 and presenting on SBs 530, 533, and 610.
Man, you almost had a 100%
sorry
record. B+. You're on a B+ now. Please continue,
Okay,
Senator.
so I'll begin with SB 530.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. SB 530 is measured. I'll define pedal-powered pedicabs in statute and establish minimum safety requirements to allow
Move
these.
the bill.
Okay, thank you. All right, just it's going to have minor offset costs to provide for the option for safety monitor operator to complete the ABC LEAD program, and we worked with ABC to ensure that essentially these costs will be offset by fine revenues and likely covered by the fees provided by the private training providers. Respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you so much.
And have witness to answer any questions.
Okay. Individuals from the public in support. Witnesses in opposition. Individuals from the public in opposition. Department of Finance.
We have a neutral position on this bill, minor absorbable costs.
Thank you so much. Questions or comments for the committee members? I have a question. Have you actually been on one of these pedicab?
I have, and it's a lot of fun.
Great. We have a motion by Quirk, a second by Bigelow, and this bill is out on an A roll call.
Thank you.
Thank you. Your next
All right,
bill,
looking
please.
forward to seeing everyone on the pedicab. Okay, next bill is SB 533. So I bring to you SB 533 that will impose a narrowly tailored prohibition on the use of the Bradley Burns tax rebates. The bill essentially eliminates exceptions in the current law that some businesses and local governments have been taking advantage of. Unfortunately, it's become an increasingly common practice for companies to pressure local agencies to provide a sales tax revenue rebate on the promise to book all sales from multiple sites with that local agency. And
Move the bill.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. No, it's not a suspense item.
You're correct, Mr. Quirk.
All right.
Don't let the staff confuse you.
Okay.
We have a motion by Quirk, a second by Bloom.
All right. So, again, when sales tax revenue from commercial activity in one jurisdiction is booked in another, the local agency that is losing the sales tax revenue still is obligated to provide police, fire protection services, also to maintain local streets and other services. And unfortunately, this is even more nefarious when it's done without the knowledge of the citizens, businesses, employees within the jurisdiction that's agreeing to the deal. So there's no impact to state revenues and likely very minor reimbursable state mandate costs. I do have as witness John Robinson from the city of West Sacramento as a witness as this has happened in my district. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Witness and support.
John Robinson, Deputy City Manager, City of West Sacramento, here to support the bill and answer any questions you might have.
Thank you so much. Any other individuals from the public in support?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Moira Top here on behalf of the City of San Diego in support.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Anthony Gonsalves representing the cities of Cerritos and Roseville in support.
Thank you. Witnesses in opposition, individuals from the public in opposition, Department of Finance.
We have a neutral position on this bill. The bill will not affect state tax revenues. However, at a local level, it could result in the redistribution of sales tax revenues among local agencies compared to current law.
Great. Questions or comments from the committee members? Seeing none, this bill has a motion and a second. It's out on a B-roll call with Chang not voting. Okay. Now you're on to your suspense item.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I present to you SB 610, which is this suspense file candidate. SB 610 requires the Department of Healthcare Services to finalize a new reimbursement rate and complete annual reconciliations for federally qualified health centers, or FQHCs, or rural health centers within specified timelines. Currently, there are no timelines that requires the Department of Healthcare Services to finalize reimbursement rates or annual reconciliations for these critical clinics. This has resulted in the department taking approximately 5 years to finalize a new rate and approximately 3 years to finalize reconciliation, which has resulted in the state owing nearly $50 million to clinics that are providing critical services to our underserved communities. Although the timelines established by SB 610 may require funding for additional staff, this would be a temporary situation because to help with the current backlog in the paperwork. SB 610 is not requiring the state to do anything new, but it's simply holding the department accountable for money that they actually owe the clinics so the clinics can continue to provide access to care and to help their cash flow. This bill currently has bipartisan support, no opposition, and I look forward to working with you to remove this from the suspense file. Thank you so very much.
Chair Member Sean South on behalf of the California Primary Care Association. SB 610 will allow our members to properly plan for the expansion that they need to do in order to serve the growing Medi-Cal population. We thank the committee for their thoughtful analysis and look forward to the bill coming off suspense. Thank you.
Any other witnesses support? Individuals from the public in support? Witnesses in opposition? Individuals from the public in opposition? Department of Finance.
We are opposed to this bill as it is unnecessary and results in ongoing general fund costs. Unlike most other Medi-Cal providers, federally qualified health centers and rural health clinics are reimbursed for their full costs pursuant to federal law. The reimbursement methodology is more time-consuming than traditional Medi-Cal reimbursements because of the time needed to calculate the RAP payments, which bring clinics into the reimbursement rate that covers 100% of their costs. The cost to Department of Healthcare Services is approximately $2.3 million, which includes $1.2 million general fund.
Thank you so much. Questions or comments from the committee members? Seeing none, Mr. Pan, your bill is on suspense. We'll take it up in due course. Would you like to close?
Again, this is money that the department owes clinics. They should be able to do this in less than 5 years. And again, I look forward to working with the committee. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Senator Pan. Also, your bill, SB 145, has been put over to next week.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.